Hello there. We're going to get started pretty soon, so I just wanted everyone to get into their seats and get comfortable. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Changepoint Church. I want to thank the church for letting us have this public information session here tonight. This is a great venue, great sound, great video capability, so it's a perfect setting to have the presenter. Tonight we had presenters, but now we're a presenter to give their thoughts and their ideas for the YMCA property, which we're really excited to hear about that tonight. The city took possession of the YMCA in February of this year after we were able to build the capacity within City Hall to take on something as large as the Y, not just because of the property being a big building, but also just because there's a lot of moving parts to being able to facilitate and also move the process forward. So as city government was able to rebuild itself, we're able to take on this responsibility as well. I want to introduce tonight the members of the Citizens Selection Advisory Committee, which we created, which actually came out of one of the public meetings. We had the one at Christ Church, where someone was talking about, geez, when you get these proposals in, would it make sense to have a group outside of city government also be part of it? And we had been talking about that, but after that night when it was brought up, it really was that we realized it was probably a really good thing to do for transparency and also giving others the opportunity to look at these proposals and now a proposal. So we had asked Barbara Jeter Jackson, who is here tonight, county legislator and longtime friend of mine and colleague, to chair it. Also, Sarah Salem from the 2nd Ward is on it, and Sarah is here as well tonight because she represents the YMCA property in the 2nd Ward. Tamoya Norwood, Sashi Isaacs, and Arthur T. Rollin are the other 3 community members on that committee. And then Paul Kalogerakis, who is our economic development director, and John Penny, who is the city's community engagement director, round out this site selection advisory committee. So I'm going to turn this over to Barbara and look forward to the presentation. And thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening. I just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and giving input, hopefully, to the committee. We will be meeting shortly after this meeting, after hearing the presentation. We certainly want your input because whatever we do, we want this to be the best project going on in the city of Poughkeepsie from the city. I'm not counting the county now because I know you want to talk about the jail. So we will be meeting shortly after this meeting with your input, and this will help us to move forward with the project. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Sarah Salem, whose ward this property is in, for comments to you. Thanks.
Hey there, how's everyone doing tonight? This is really exciting. This brings us one step closer to seeing this space reactivated and put back into service to the community. And I'm not going to take up too much time. The Y is housed within the 2nd Ward, and so it's been a space that I've seen a lot and walked around a lot, just as the entire city has. And it's not just a benefit to see it redeveloped and reactivated for the 2nd Ward, but for the entirety of the city of Poughkeepsie, and hopefully for the entirety of the community as an intergenerational, and dynamic space. So I'm really excited to hear the presenters, and I'm really excited to hear the questions and the feedback from the public. So thank you all for coming. Thanks.
Pop that up a Hi, I'm John Penny. I'm the Community Engagement Director of the City of Poughkeepsie. We appreciate you coming to this public meeting. It's been a very good public, we've gotten a lot of public input during this process and appreciate it. Also wanted to thank Changepoint for holding us. And if you have any questions, you can please write them on index cards and you can ask them of the presenter once they're finished making their presentation. Tonight the city is more of the connective tissue of this process, and we wanted to just have you have a direct discussion with the presenter. And in this case, we thought there was going to be presenters, but we got late word that one of them has decided to drop out for now at least. They weren't feeling well. So with that, I'm going to ask Chris Kroner to come up representing the 35 Montgomery Community Coalition to come up and give his presentation. Oh, okay. Okay, great. This is James Watson.
See if all my papers fit. Good evening. My name is James Watson. I work for Mass Design Group here in downtown Poughkeepsie, just a few blocks away on Main Street. I grew up in the city of Poughkeepsie. I'm a proud resident of the city, and I'm excited to have the opportunity tonight to present this proposal on behalf of the 35 Montgomery Community Coalition for a project that we feel we as a city will be able to take pride in for years to come. The 35 Montgomery Community Coalition is a group of 10 local stakeholder organizations who rallied around a vision for a community campus at the site of the former Y. Through outreach to the citizens of Poughkeepsie and an assessment of what could be achieved with our anchor institutions working together, we have developed a proposal that seeks to not just replace the Y, but expand well beyond the model of a typical community center. Our proposal seeks to not only provide much needed educational, child care, health, and recreation services for Poughkeepsie's residents, but also to create new possibilities for what we as a community can achieve together. Our vision is bold because we are inspired by the strength of the team that has assembled to date, and we are excited to welcome you into the coalition and conversation with us tonight. Is this working? Sorry, okay. And this is our presentation. This is our coalition. The 35 Montgomery Community Coalition currently consists of the following organizations: Mass Design Group, represented by myself, and Principal of Mass Design Group's Hudson Valley Design Lab, Chris Kroner. Can you give a wave? For those of you who don't know Mass Design Group is a nonprofit architecture and design collective that was co-founded in 2008 by Poughkeepsie native and Poughkeepsie High School grad Michael Murphy. Mass is co-headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, and Kigali, Rwanda. And 2 years ago, Mass opened the Hudson Valley Design Lab here in downtown Poughkeepsie, which is led by Chris. Mass stands for a model of architecture serving society, which represents our goal to stand not just for an organization, but to stand for an idea that we can put mission and the public interest first. We are driven by a focus on maximum impact for the constituents our projects serve, and we strive to demonstrate that great design can engage civic responsibility, deliver economic and social outcomes, and inspire by bringing beauty and dignity to those most often denied or displaced by architecture. Here are a few of our projects around the globe, including the Jeshkio Cholera Treatment Center in Haiti in the upper left, and in the lower left, the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Lynching Memorial, in Montgomery, Alabama. We are joined in the 35 Montgomery Community Coalition by Community Matters 2 Incorporated, a Poughkeepsie nonprofit that addresses residents' needs through community cleanups, youth programming, community events, and other projects with the goal of building unity between different neighborhoods and giving citizens pride in their city. They are represented here tonight by President and co-founder Lakete Taylor. Can you give a wave, Lakete? Co-founder Chris Grant. We're also joined tonight by Day One Early Learning Community, a Poughkeepsie-based nonprofit aimed at creating a model for early learning opportunities for children 0 to 4. They are represented here by co-founder Dr. Julie Reese, who is also director of Wimpheimer Nursery School at Vassar College and executive director of the Infant Toddler Center at Vassar College. Dutchess County, which is not here tonight, but we greatly appreciate the county executive support of this project, and Dutchess Community College, represented by President Dr. Pamela Eddington here tonight. New Vance Health, which is not here tonight, but we greatly appreciate the support of Timmy and Massey, Senior Vice President of Marketing, Public Affairs, and Government Relations at New Vance Health. Poughkeepsie Farm Project, represented by Executive Director Ray Armiter. Poughkeepsie Public Library District, represented by Development Officer Gareth Davies. Vassar College, represented by Special Assistant to the President and Board Secretary Wesley Dixon. And finally, YMCA of Kingston and Ulster County, represented by President and CEO Heidi Kirschner, Associate Executive Director Rashida Tyler. Also, we're happy that the Poughkeepsie City School District has expressed its interest in collaborating with the coalition as this process unfolds. And I think Superintendent Rosser was going to try to be here tonight. Thank you for being here, Superintendent Rosser. All right, so for the actual proposal, sorry. When looking at what should be done with the Y site, we are inspired by the history of its location at Eastman Park. Eastman Park was the creation of Harvey G. Eastman, who founded the Eastman Business College in Poughkeepsie and served as mayor of Poughkeepsie in the late 1800s. Eastman developed the park site into gardens, walking paths, a pond, and even a small zoo, all free for public use. For more than a century, Eastman Park served as one of the most well-known symbols of the city of Poughkeepsie. It was our central park, where residents came together for education, recreation, and other shared moments of significance. In the early 20th century, the city acquired Eastman Park, and in 1966, the parcel known as 35 Montgomery Street was alienated by act of state legislature and sold to the Dutchess YMCA. The current building on site was constructed in 1968 to house the new YMCA facility. Many of us in this room remember the Dutchess YMCA and its value for residents. It featured community rooms, a fitness center, gymnasium, indoor track, and a large 25-yard swimming pool, among other amenities. After-school programs offered academic assistance, and physical fitness supported generations of Poughkeepsie youth. But in 2009, the YMCA closed, and the building has been vacant ever since. The impacts of the Y's absence, along with the closing of other much-loved community centers in Poughkeepsie, have been clear. We lack a year-round public pool, and our children have missed out on all of the benefits that provides. Meanwhile, as our schools have faced well-publicized challenges, our children have missed out on the support and assistance community center-based after-school programs can offer, while the facilities of the school districts themselves strain to meet the needs of the student body. And while all of this has gone on, 21st century economic trends and changes in how and when we work have created more and more need for us to rethink childcare and when and where it's provided. This is just a snapshot of what we saw when considering what community assets were needed at the Y site. But we also knew that we needed to go out and listen to those who would be using the site, especially Poughkeepsie's youth. This work was initiated and led by the team from Community Matters 2 Incorporated. Community Matters 2 President and co-founder Lakete Taylor is here to share what he and the team learned. And I'm going to hand off to Lakete now, one of our 3 presenters. And Chris Grant is going to join Lakete on stage. Thank you. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakete Taylor. I'm the president and founder of Community Matters 2.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Grant, and I'm the co-founder of Community Matters 2.
Once we heard about the project as far as the YMCA, and everybody wanted to hear from the community and what they wanted, we just kind of like decided to actually ask the community what they wanted. So first we started with just a survey out to the general public. And then as conversations came up more and more, we started talking about children. So I thought about it, and a lot of times we talk about children and the children aren't in the room, nor do we hear from them. So I decided to get a survey and hear from the children. So what we did was we put together a survey, and with the help of the school system, we were able to put in the middle school and the high school. And then we came up with a total of about 683 surveys. And we said that's not enough. So we decided to do a video, and actually, so you can, hear people saying exactly what they want from the community. We're more so, if you say community, we're gonna go to the community. That's just what we're gonna do. And we're gonna get people's opinions for real. We're not gonna assume. We're gonna ask them. We're gonna get, factual information. And Chris went out. He did a video. He got people to actually say what they wanted and why we need a community center. So.
Since the YMCA closed down a number of years ago, we definitely never had something where, a central point where the city youth can go. I definitely think the City of Poughkeepsie needs a community center for a hub for all the youth to go to, look to mentors, do homework, what have you. It's definitely needed.
Yeah, I feel like we need a community center to keep the youth out of it.
We need a community center so like kids our age have some place to go, or even places to play basketball, or like just bond with other people.
Most definitely, we need some place to take our young children to. They need some outlet, some place that they can go and learn how to sew and do different things other than running the streets trying to sell drugs. We need some place positive for them.
When I was younger, we had the community center. It kept us out of trouble. When I had my kids, they had a community center. They gave them a part-time job. They volunteered. Nowadays, the kids don't have anything to do or anywhere to go, so that's why they're all in the street. So we need to get our youth off the street. It would be greatly appreciated if our youth do have a community center.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
I'm all in. Because sometimes, the kids don't be hanging out all night and stuff like that. So yeah, have the kids safe.
We have a lot of kids that need some place to go to stay out of trouble.
I feel like I'll have connections with other people I may not have had because I'll see them around there and we'll bond and everything.
Thank you. So what I did was I went around Poughkeepsie to different parks where I could find kids, different neighborhoods where I can find different adults and community members, and sorry about that. But yeah, I went around to different people in the community, business owners, and just asked them questions about, what they think the city of Poughkeepsie needed and if they needed a community center, and the different benefits that it could have for the city of Poughkeepsie, not only for the kids, but for everybody in the community. And, there is a lot of videos. Obviously, we had to condense it down to, a few, but I think that was an effective way to kind of get an accurate, idea of what the community actually wants, because a lot of times decisions are made and, they just make it off of what they think needs to be done. So this was my way of trying to get an accurate account of what the city needs and wants.
Just to speak on the video as well, we just made it a priority to talk to different age groups. Like, one of the kids are actually in high school. Another person was our age, who went to school around our time, and as you saw, we had older people. So you get to see from younger to even older, they all have that same concept that we need a community center. But right here is a condensed report of actually the surveys. So we have our public, middle, and high school. So this one was done online, and as you can see, the surveys are large. If you look at the RFEI, there is more information, but we condensed it for this presentation. And as you can see, just simply 98% of the 206 say, yes, we need a community center. So if you want to ask the question again, the answer's right there, all right? And then right here we have recreational activities, and we had educational activities, because we don't want it to be one of those places where you just go to play basketball or just have fun. We want to be a place where people can come and learn and excel and progress in everyday life, education, and just, being around different people. So we asked the recreational, which is always fun, as well as the educational. Right here you have middle school. So we want to ask them, have you ever even been to a community center? Because we can, just say it, but some kids really didn't even understand what a community center was when we say it. So we just asked a simple question, have you been to one? And as you can see, it was a 50-50. But 88% of them said, yes, we need one. Once we actually told them and we talked about exactly what it was, 88% was like, yes. The 12%, they're young, they don't even know yet. So we're not gonna go on to them. Same thing, the recreational questions and educational, because educational-wise, a lot of times, our age and older, we say what kids need. We don't ask them exactly what would they like, and we end up giving them things that they really don't want. So, you know what I mean? So we decide to ask them the question, what do you want? So some of the things, language classes, GED classes, literacy programs, these are actual middle schoolers saying that this is what they want. This isn't us saying it, this is them. So then you have the high school, and high schoolers, they're on their way into the real world. College, they're moving on. So I just want to know how they felt about it as well. Even though if a community center is built, some of them won't even actually get to experience it as a high schooler, but they have a more understanding of what it can do in the future, because maybe they didn't have it, but they understand the kids coming behind them. So you have almost 50-50 again as far as have you been there or not, and then 90% is like, yes, we need it. And the same thing, we asked what they need. As you know, there was upper bound, STEAM, SAT prep. A lot of their answers that they want educational-wise is things that you need when you're going into the real world anyway. And that's what they actually, they actually wanted. So if you look at it, it's about 92.5, that actually want a community center. And these results are coming from the community. It isn't something coming up. It's not something we assumed. It's not something we got from data from somewhere else. The data is from right here in Poughkeepsie. This is our kids, our older, different demographics, different areas of Poughkeepsie, all saying that they would like a community center. And that's a nice board, a lot of stickers and stuff. But but now, just concepts and everything like that. But we're gonna pass that on to Chris Kroner so he can, finish the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's such an honor to talk about this work that we've really poured our hearts and souls into for the last series of months, because our attending a series of community meetings like this one began the charge of what you're about to see up on screen. Can we go back to that slide? No problem. I will? Great. Okay. So the list of all the exciting ideas and activities that the students were able to bring to light, we wanted to expand upon. And looking at the site particularly, we hope to extend this as a process, as a discussion. And we ran an exercise with the group that we've assembled as the coalition, this open group that started to become a coalition, to say, how do we take those programs and talk about them in a temporal way? So we understood that this site was, in and of itself, a singular building with a singular operator. Could this site be more resilient if it was open later in the evening or on weekends? And what could that mean? And so we populated this entire matrix with ideas based upon that original sketch of and list of activities to expand all of those roles into a much more temporally resilient list of activities. Yes, no? No? Okay. Some of these started to distill down into other organizations coming together and coalescing into larger kind of programmatic opportunities or groupings. And they started to have similar buckets of information that we wanted to try to incorporate into this kind of dream list of all of the things that really do kind of question what is a community center today. And one of the things that we really realized is that it needed to be for all ages, and it needed to be at all hours. I think it came out of the early learning research that people are having different types of jobs and different types of cycles. And one way that we could actually make this community center, if we want to call it that, survive is to try to extend it and try to think about operationalizing this facility to be a beacon of hope and light at all energies and time of the weekly cycle. And working here in this community particularly, I lead Mass Design Group's Hudson Valley Design Lab, which by and large is an urban design office as well as an architectural office. And we like to think of solutions that include more parts and pieces of the city. And its particular location here in Eastman Park, oh, it's going, I see, oh, okay. Here in Eastman Park allows it to be really a connective piece of tissue between the Vassar Brothers Medical Campus, the whole south side, and the kind of the leading edge or the western edge of the Central Business District along Market Street. That alongside also, let's go forward on this, see if this works. Yes, good. That the library is located at the extension of Market Street, right at the kind of the cusp of Little Market Street. We started to see an amazing city amenity and asset that we wouldn't need to build a new library, for example, in a community center. We should be utilizing one of the amazing and most important assets that already exist in this city. And that started to couple up with ideas about children. And we started to say, well, what if Little Market Street, which goes by the Soldier's Fountain, actually started to create a corridor, maybe a little bit of a path that's only a 1-minute walk into the new site for the YMCA, the resurrected YMCA site. And so we started to call this a children's corridor that would begin at the library and would extend right into kind of an open kind of platform for community engagement. So just looking at that park and series of parks together, you actually have about 12 acres of sites, which is really amazing to assemble. And Lincoln Park right at the moment is doing some of its, there's some sewer renovation work, for example. There's a parking lot to the north, a parking lot to the south, the ball fields of the Eastman Park, which are lit, which is amazing and allows it to extend into the evening hours, and this amazing historic oval, which we can see a lot of amazing historic photographs that had a fountain in the center, for example, at one point. And so what we have sketched here started to assemble those conversations into an open-ended framework. This is, well, let me be really clear about it. This is not a design, this is a process. We realize that as a group that's come together, that we didn't get to everybody in 2.5 months to have a conversation about who should be in this coalition. We wanted to make sure that the idea of this type of venue, a community engagement meeting, would be the first of many, and that if others had other potential input and ideas about what should go in this building, that they had the opportunity to include that into this dream. So this I would mostly call a sketch. This is a sketch of an idea that is an open courtyard kind of building, if you want to call it that, an outline that is open-ended at one end, for example, intentionally. So at the intersection of Montgomery, it actually breaks open to allow people in and allows people to flow through the entire sketch building all the way down and back into the park. If you were to try to look at how we organized all of the different parts and pieces, we tried to take the entire list and organize them on significant evidence that we find already there on site. And so we took the entire YMCA campus. Let's see if this glows up again. Yes, good, you can see this maybe a little bit better. And what we did is we actually located the pool, which is located right here. We anchored everything based on the existing pool structure. We knew that the pool is one of the most expensive things to build, and therefore it would be one of the places that you would try to resurrect if possible and renovate. And then beyond this, we tried to incorporate, almost as a linear fashion, all of the other programs into the outline of a courtyard building. And a courtyard building allows you to come into a central court, which allows some sort of protection and kind of an enclosure, but allowed also at the far end and corner a way to walk underneath the building and into the ball fields. So just unpacking it just a little bit, I'd like to showcase the larger view. We see this as, yes, maybe a large structure, but again, this is an idea of a kind of an umbrella of program that everything could be housed within. And depending upon the commitments of any of the organizations that come to the table and decide that this is exactly the center that they want to commit to and can continue moving forward with, the outline and the shape of this building can modify, become smaller to accommodate any of those changes in terms of the design decisions moving forward. This goes forward. Paul, can you give me a little help? And maybe one more. Yeah. So just as in terms of how it is laid out, and I know that we're getting close to time here, at the corner of Market Street and Montgomery, what we have located is the Day One 24-hour Child Development Center, excuse me. And that extends into a long linear bar where a series of health and therapy and therapeutic services could be offered, especially maybe upstairs. The pool is located in the corner, the same location that the pool is now. And what that offers is a little bit of an L-shaped building that has a playground on one side. We were able to visit the Wimpheimer Nursery School at Vassar, and this was, I would say, so fundamentally instrumental in understanding what a protected play space could mean. As the building actually would wrap around that side and create a kind of a protective courtyard space, it becomes an extension of gym spaces, mostly reserved as recreational in this sketch, with the gymnasium elevated above the ground. And so all of this is reserved at this moment for YMCA, a YMCA of Kingston and Ulster County. And then it turns the corner to become potentially an operation for school services and school facilities. So where all the academics could be extended along this long bar and return towards the beginning of the entire courtyard, the school can have all of its classrooms, a cafeteria space wraps the corner, and we tried to invent a way to include a teaching kitchen and a public outpost for that food, such that pedestrians walking by could actually purchase and help to subsidize the meals of the kids that are having school lunches at this cafeteria in the corner. In the center of the whole space, which again could become drop-off space, we could have a driveway, is a courtyard. We were thinking that was a planted courtyard of community garden spaces, as well as the roofscape, which could be all plantings as well. So from an aerial perspective, going back, a bird coming over the building, for example, would not be able to see that there's actually a building edge. It's all grass from its viewpoint. But we were trying to make an idea that the space was once a community garden and could once again become a community garden space, and for all of its opportunities. All right, I think that's it. Good. Oh, I wanted to make sure that so we also showcased a little bit of just kind of the look and feel of what some of those interiors would be if this would be the vision moving forward. Most of these we're trying to include as many public spaces as possible, and if you can understand that this gymnasium, which is elevated, you can walk underneath and then down and into the parkscape. So this is the middle courtyard, and this is the cafeteria space up on Montgomery for everyone to see. And with that, that's sort of a little walkthrough of the building. It's mostly supposed to be an open platform. I will want to make sure that we say that again, so that we can include your voices in what the future of this design could mean. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
So again, I just want to let you know this is part of the public process. You can send comments also to Poughkeepsie RFEI@cityofpoughkeepsie.com after this. So this isn't the end of it, but we do again wanted to have give you a chance to have a direct dialogue with the people who had ideas for this site. So we ask if you can come up to this microphone and ask any questions, and we'll try to answer them. Right?
And we'd like to invite the entire coalition to please come up and stand with us so that if anyone has a particular answer or question to a member, we have that dialogue today. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
love the concept. Thank you so much for all the hard work that went into it. I particularly love the programming for kids, actually of all ages. I work with a lot of kids at different ages. I have 2 little kids. One of the biggest problems that I have as a parent here in the community is the lack of before and after school that's consistent and in an enrichment way, right? So something where they look forward to going and they gain from it. So I think that would be amazing for our kids. The Y over in Ulster, where I work at a school, provides that before and after care at the school district that I work in. So I love that, and I love the idea of really growing the vision for our kids and helping them think about, what's the unthinkable future self that they don't yet know about, right? I want to meet the kids where they are, but I also want to give them opportunities for things that they may never have thought that they could do. That now, maybe with this kind of a community center, they might have that chance. They might say, oh, you know what, I never thought of that. That's pretty cool, maybe I can try that, and that's something that I can feel empowered to do. So thank you so much. My big question is, how are we funding this wonderful, amazing place that I want to have open next year, right? So there it is.
Who's going to take that one? It's all over to me. We take it in tandem? Yeah, okay, so. Okay, so if we want to talk about the funding model, we have to talk about kind of I think what the vision is really going to become. So the commitments of all of the organizations you see here are interested parties that think that we need to do something greater than oneself. When we look at the YMCA, the fragility of the building as we saw it is that it was singular in nature, that it had one organization, that if anything happened to it is extraordinarily vulnerable. And so immediately that starts to break open a different model, and it's complicated because clearly this would be, to assemble all of our folks together would probably be one of the longest contracts in history. So we're trying to understand other models for this. There are great examples of these community campus school kind of cooperatives, I think I should call it, in campuses across the country, including some in Western New York. We've seen some in Texas and North Carolina and other places. So there are some precedents that we're trying to follow at this point, but we're going to have a stacked model. So where did the young lady just run off to? I don't know. Oh, hi. It has to be stacked. It's not going to be a singular angel grant that's going to take over, and it's not going to be a singular organization that has to bear the burden of this. In the RFEI, we did very generously receive some commitment from the county that was really very thoughtful, and we're very grateful for that kind of idea of commitment. But we would need to assemble kind of what the entire vision is going to be. And so we don't know what the price is today. I wouldn't want to price the vision that we've sketched just because we don't know that that's going to be exactly what the final piece would be. Before I would initiate a cost estimate, for example, I'd want to make sure that we got a little bit further down the road and that we included more people at the table. And we'd like to do that as quickly as we can so that we can open the doors for you as fast as possible. So I don't have a clear stack and model of the pro forma, but we're hoping that we can be looking at those precedents, and we can also use the fact that the schools can be swing spaces at different times of day, early morning, after school, evening hours, and potentially overnight, to help that all pencil out. It's the best answer I can give today.
Lotto tickets.
Lotto tickets. Bingo.
Question in a way, and it may be something a little bit further along the line. But I noticed that Chris's presentation, which I thought was fantastic, about the building itself and the sense of openness of the building, and that brings up to my mind the use of the word campus. Is what might be your landscaping plans for that campus, for the oval and all of that? how do you get the kids out of the building and into nature? And what would be the kinds of things? Would there be a playground? Would there be water park? Would there be various trees and shrubs, or one thing on a little nature trail, or anything like that that would integrate that amazing campus with the interior kind of work that you're doing?
Julie? Julie, do you want to help me here? Sure.
So I think that a lot of what we would want to incorporate and actually want to have as part of the downtown experience is about being out, outside in nature, and also outside as part of the community in the city. We at school, the school I direct, we spend 3 times a day outside, engaged with the world. And sometimes that world is nature and all things beautiful, and sometimes that world is how the world works. And the location of this particular facility would provide for a lot of that, including the gardening and the food project, food life cycle. Like, you know, if you ask a 3-year-old where food comes from, they tend to say things like Stop and Shop. We want them to actually get a much better idea of where food comes from and how they can contribute to that experience.
Hello there, and thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate it, and I would like to ask, when would, if you get this project on the ground, how long will it take to do it? Because, as you know, youth definitely need a youth center as soon as possible. And in the meantime, is there like any stopgap that you can put in place now that would get our youth, the vocation opportunities available to get them off the street and get them, ready for the your community center? Thank you.
All right, so thank you for the question. And what we can do is we can actually start putting some programs in place to maybe test what we can actually put in the campus. For example, we were having a problem over in the 5th Ward with kids on the streets. So with the help of Yvonne Flowers in the city, we were able to get a grant to open a partnership on Saturdays from 6 to 9, so kids had a place to go. And it's doing pretty well. But I think I kind of agree with you. We do need to put some things in place, and if we just go for more grants, take some of our programs that we have already and actually put them out there maybe in different facilities now just to see how they work, it will keep the children off the streets. And when the campus is actually here, it's just a part of just moving them to an actual campus. So yes, we can start programs now, which we should, and see exactly what happens and see the interest of the kids now before we start something and we actually don't really know just yet. But yes, there are programs out there like ours, Satara, who are out there, Friday Night Lights programs now where kids like to go. So yes, we hopefully will have more programs out there before we actually get to campus.
Hi, I'm Heidi from the YMCA. This is Rashida. And one of the big things we noticed when we came to this community is that a desire to develop some programming that would not be a single-handed effort. It's very dependent on spaces. If we were to get going, the Friday Night Lights program is a program that we saw. There's so much that can be done through that program, helping the schools, bringing programs there. It is one of the only locations right now where there is a public pool, And that is definitely something that we can bring to the table. Of course, that is, you know, a hot commodity, and pool space with the swimming of the school teams and some other activities make it a little bit difficult, but there is opportunity in this community to use some spaces that are available to put together programs with other community organizations for the youth in this community. And that's definitely something we're very interested in doing and collaborating with the different organizations here to get that done.
Also, we have great experience in Kingston and Ulster County with youth programming, especially around our bike program, where we go to several schools and then also community centers and teach the kids bike safety, how to ride, kids get helmets, and also the bike program refurbishes the bikes, and kids and community members are able to keep them. And then they also learn those skills of bike repair.
So it's in that program, it's really nice because we teach them how to repair bikes, and they learn the bike that they repair, they get to keep, and they also walk away with a good set of skills that they can go to work for a bike shop and be a basic mechanic at those bike shops. So that's a really nice program.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Rosser, Superintendent of the Poughkeepsie City School District. Talk a little bit about the Friday Nights Lights program. We have over 250 to 300 students each week who are participating in the Friday Night Lights program, and it's been a wonderful opportunity that we've been able to provide to our students in collaboration with a number of community-based partners. I will share with you, while we have seen great success with that program, there's a greater need that our children have, and unfortunately, due to some of the constraints that we have at the middle school, a wonderful opportunity for them to participate in a program and a building such as the one that you saw on the screen earlier would be better for our children. Will we continue Friday Night Lights at the Poughkeepsie Middle School? More than likely we would, because we want to make sure that students across, our children across the city, have the ability to participate in programming that will most certainly meet their needs.
How arduous a participatory process can be, but it's really important, and I appreciate the proposal. I have two quick questions. One is if you either have or have the intention of convening a youth advisory council where you have a structure and ongoing input of young people as you move forward. And two is whether there is part of the proposal is, I know in talking about youth programming, it's often very easy to get the structures convoluted with the quality of services, and I know that part of your design process is you're incorporating that, but I'm wondering if if there's any decisions around adherence to certain quality standards or investment in, like I know for example the YMCA has very well thought out national institutes that help raise the quality of youth service providers, and as there's all these disparate agencies essentially providing services, if there's some plan for how to elevate the field as a whole and the service providers as a whole. Thanks.
So I think one of the things that comes to mind when we talk about a collaboration, all of the group of people who are standing behind me, the deal with a collaboration is that you raise each other up and help each other succeed. I know for many couple of years I had gotten calls about redoing the Y, and I wasn't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because there was no way you could do it alone. And so with the talent and the expertise of this coalition, the thought would be that whatever each of us bring to the table, we share with each other, so that this adventure, this endeavor can be successful for the next 50 to 100 years. And you really can only do that if you help each other. And I know as community organizations, we don't covet what we know and what, we want to share it so that it's successful for the community and those that we are trying to help. So I, as a YMCA, there are certain things, yes, that we do with child's programs and everything, that we do have a lot. There's been a lot done over the years, but that is something that we would share with the other partners, just as their expertise that we don't have, we would look to them to help us be successful in what we do.
Marquez. I'm a local mom and also a mom blogger. As a mom of 2 young kids who are of school age and preschool age, something that a lot of moms desperately are in need of is an indoor play space for the wintertime that isn't associated with a school, but is more like an indoor trampoline park or indoor playground just for the long winter. So just curious about that as an option. Thanks.
I think that sounds like a great idea, and I think we are motivated by, there's a phrase, the civic commons, and I think Poughkeepsie misses a lot of, it's a deficit in Poughkeepsie right now, civic common spaces for people to gather, for people to share experiences together, people to see each other, and I think as the with a sister with 2 twin 1-year-olds who come to the area, we definitely recognize the need for that space, and that Poughkeepsie does not have that right now. And I think it's something that we would definitely want to incorporate into the space of the building. So.
Good evening. Lance Hardy, 2nd Ward. I live in the 2nd Ward of Poughkeepsie. The program sounds really great, and I think 2 people raised a question about how long it might take, and just sitting there, to me it seems like it would be years and years and years. And we are really in dying need of a center like yesterday. No offense. And I even thought that maybe some of these companies in the city of Poughkeepsie, that's one buying up all the property in Poughkeepsie, can maybe build a center like ASAP and get it back in their taxes, or however they want to do it. But it's a dire need for our children. And then one thing I wanted to bring to it is not just the children, the senior citizens. Like when the YMCA was open, one section was for the senior citizens and the other section was for the students and basketball and swimming and all of that stuff. Maybe if we can't get that great big facility like ASAP, we can get something smaller until the money fund gets ready, and then we can navigate through to something else. That was just a thought. Thank you.
I want to let the Y team talk about seniors because that's something that we didn't mention, and I think it's a very good prompt. I also wanted to just highlight that I couldn't agree more about the immediate need. I think the Community Matters 2 group with their programs are doing their part, and I think we feel from day one, we felt that we would be hypocritical to be part of this process and not recognize the immediate need. I think we need to be able to hold the 2 ideas in our heads at the same time. I think when we look at Eastman Park, that is an unparalleled opportunity to do something big in our city, but we also need to look at the opportunities to do something in the short term. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing as far as other groups coming in and starting to meet some of these needs. I know that I'm personally at Friday Night Lights every week, and I'm very excited by what Natasha is doing there, and I think it's a great program. That's only one night a week. Lakete and Chris are working on Saturdays. I think we can start to come together as a grassroots to start to meet some of these needs in the short term, and I think we need to come together as a community. I would hope that these 2 processes would speak to each other, because as we're doing the short term, that should be informing what our community wants to see in the permanent space, in the big space. Rashida and the Y work with seniors in Kingston, and it's something that's been part of our conversation, so I'll let them answer that question. And then as far as how long the project is going to take, we'll pass it off to Chris Kroner, who can handle that question.
So thank you very much, and I also appreciate the opportunity to approach the question again, because one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is that we can do pop-up clinics, and these are clinics like a bike clinic that could pop up for one day, come back the next week, and they're immediate. So because we have these programs and they're already established, we can come to a school, we can come to youth, we can do something immediate. And it's really based on kids, what they want to do. If you want to have a basketball pop-up clinic, we can do that, or tennis, or running, or any other types of pop-up clinics. And we can utilize the space that's available. So it's kind of like we can be distracted by having a central location at the moment, or we can look at the structures that we have and the spaces that we have and bring the programming that we have to the community and to the youth. We have things that we can do as soon as next week in terms of program readiness for youth. We have been looking for spaces. We met with the city earlier looking for locations that we could hold a pop-up clinic. It's something that we're very interested in doing and very interested in getting the youth, understanding what the youth really want in terms of programming. And for the senior population at the YMCA in Kingston and Ulster County, we have several programs for the senior population, including Sit and Get Fit, and also aqua aerobics, and our Silver Sneakers program dealing with walking, and also approaching mindfulness and meditation, Reiki. We have over 50 exercise classes and wellness classes that are for all ages, really, and for our senior population as well.
And don't forget, we have a new one called Choga.
Oh yeah,
Choga, which is yoga being done in a chair for seniors. So a lot of seniors, it just helps us develop balance and then onward. So and the senior population is great too, because not only is it programming for seniors, but we also find it really quite nice, especially with some of our sports, to have intergenerational programming with the seniors and youngsters. And it's really quite a joy when you see that unfold, and you see, I mean, you don't think it's possible, but you see a really competitive game of basketball, and you have a guy who's near 70 or a little older, and you have another guy who's 19 or 20, and you think, how can this be? But it does work, and it's really quite nice to see. We also have intergenerational pickleball, which is also a great thing to see with the youngsters and the seniors. And it's nice that it just builds that bond where youth and seniors learn to respect each other. It does go both ways. Even in our weight rooms, the senior guys teach the young guys. Even though the young guys are really, really strong, they still look up to the senior guys because they've been doing it. They have technique, and they're doing it for the long haul. So there's a lot to be learned from intergenerational activities together.
So just going back to the second part of that question. First, thank you for that question. I think when we were coming in here tonight, we were trying to make sure that we're on the mark, that this is something that would, one, be included in this community, and to hear that type of real question gives us enormous amount of support, and so that type of fuel, I think, would let us even start to think about and broadcast a timeline. Included in our proposal, I think we started to map out some of the immediate design phases that would be included in doing a project like this, and I think it goes hopefully without saying, but I think we should say it anyway, that this is an amazing chance to do it right, and we want to do it right. And so in order to have that space, to have the conversations, and to make the design what it should become, we need to go back to all of the partners and make sure that they are helping to coalesce what the actual inclusion of them in the design would be. And so one way we could do that, if some group isn't quite there, and I agree, it could take many, many years and we need it now. If a group isn't quite there, we could phase the project, and we could try to take it out in chunks, and we could try to see if part of it could be installed immediately and the next piece could come right after and then following. You could also try to do it all in one go, and that would be another way to design it. And I do think that you kind of have to go at it, at least in the early stages, in both ways, to think of it as multi-pronged, and you have to have the big vision, and you have to think about how you could intelligently phase it so that it could be built in separate waves. I mean, we're excited to be part of that design effort and to try to charge it up. Just in broad brushstrokes, I mean, you need about a year or more to design something of this size, just to do it enough design time to draw it and get through it enough conversation. You also have to build into that a lot of time for feedback like this. And I'd say that this is the first of many conversations that should happen prior to really putting pen to paper and inking it right down. So I think that's important to realize that there's probably a year or so of design effort that really needs to be very, very thoughtful and quite open-ended. And then you have your construction period, and it's a big building, so you can't ever think of a building going up in less than 12 months in this climate. So you're at minimum 2 years out for any piece of the facility. That I think is realistic. Would the whole vision take more time? Well, yeah. I would say like the parks and the ball fields and the renovation of the historic oval and all of the wonderful pieces that would make this really terrific, that might take longer to assemble. But the nice thing about that is that might also get a little bit of attention on different types of avenues of funding. Things from the national side, things from the state might pay more attention, and that might actually help the project come to fruition. I like to say that urban design, for example, is the long game, so we might be in like inning number 2 of 9 at this moment. We've made it through the first inning potentially, but you have to stay patient and stay strong and stay committed to kind of that North Star.
Hi, my name's Satara Brown. I'm the Director of Communication and Community Engagement with Day One. I also run a nonprofit here in the City of Poughkeepsie. I just want to speak to the youth programs. I think that the city has created a youth grant that has helped youth programs here in the city, and I think that we should recognize that the change over the last couple of years. I can tell you all that I run a summer program that started last year, and without the grant from the city, we would have no program. I think that it's really important that we utilize the resources that we currently have, and that we shift our approach in thinking and think of this as a community effort. There are locations where we can have some of the things that we're going to put in this, that have been put in this proposal. For instance, this past summer, we started a summer camp at 90 Market Street, which is a community center that has not been used in the last 3 years. So I really think that it's time for us to use what we have, and I think it's important to recognize the efforts that have been taken over the last couple of years, and things such as what Legette Taylor and Chris Grant are doing, and how Natasha Cherry saw the model from New Jersey and brought the community schooling over here to Poughkeepsie, which, as Dr. Rosser said, has over 300 students. So I think that we really are making efforts and strides. There's after-school programming in every single school in the school district except for the ELC Center. I can tell you myself that I had 100 kids every single week this past school year, and this year we have 75 kids. Our kids at Moore's are with us until 5:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. I wish it was longer. I wish that we had programming on Friday, but there are efforts being taken in the city right now, and I think that we should continue those efforts. We should support those efforts. We should support the school district and not just put the strains all on one person. And I think that we should shift, the allocation and fundings of programs that have been around that are not working, and put more resources into the fundings, these grassroots organizations. Chris and Legette are a grassroots organization such as I am, and we're making impacts on our youth, and we need the support. And if you have an idea, it's easier to have your things come to fruition. We have our ideas to better our community, and I think it's time to do a little bit more doing and a little bit less talking, because we do have things here that we can do for our youth, because this is going to be a long project.
So before I start, I just want to make it clear I'm not challenging the vision of this so-called community coalition. but I am challenging the process. If you look at the organizations that were listed under the Community Coalition, you see a bunch of high-powered corporations and very few community groups. And to my knowledge, there was never a public call to show up at a public meeting to gather under the umbrella of a community coalition. And that raises concerns for me about what the hierarchy is going to be in this coalition, because to introduce a phrase that some people might not like, there is a shadow government in this city of corporations that meet behind closed doors and make decisions about the outcomes of all kinds of things, including this RFEI. And the fact that there are not, for the most part, community organizations represented in this coalition is demonstrated as one example by the repeated citation of bike repair, because we have bike repair in this city. I believe it's every other week, and it's at First Lutheran. And if you had those community members invited to your public meeting, which was, I don't think, public, you'd actually know that. So that part is disappointing, and I'll just stress that the part about the hierarchy. If you have a bunch of corporations, potential funders, and you have one or two so-called community groups, how do we make sure that the community voice has equal power and influence to the corporate voice? If I can just... John, there's no problem. I'm not going to go on much longer, but I wish you wouldn't. This is an ongoing problem with my comments being interrupted, and I would like to finish. There are members of I'm just looking at the stage, and I will say that the demographics on this stage are exactly the opposite of the demographics in this city. So that's another point to me as to whether this is truly a community coalition. And regarding the selection committee, I'm just going to make a very pointed remark. The second ward council person had absolutely no interest in ever showing up at a meeting when the Y was in the hands of Pastor Whitted. And for that council person now to be in a position of power regarding the selection, the outcome is, it's outrageous. There are people on that selection committee that I respect, that are my friends, but that was not a public process either, the way that committee, the selection committee, was put together. So there are troubling process aspects to what's happened so far and what might or might not happen in the future. Thank you.
All right, real quick. Community Marriage Sue is not a so-called community group. We are, period. That's, you're kind of disrespecting, You got Satara up here every day, out here in the community. So when you speak of demographic, I am Poughkeepsie. I was born here, I'm here, and I'm here to speak for the people, 100%. So if you're saying there's no representation, there's representation. Okay, no, can I speak? Appreciate it. And as far as a public meeting for this group right here, what it was we had the other meetings, and these people right here, we decided to come together and put something up in the air. Now, we could go through the process of putting out there all the times, everybody want to come, community want to come, or we can just put something in place just to start with. Sometimes everything's criticized so much that you don't even give it a chance. These people are here. We came together like phone calls and say, hey, how can we work together? That's the process. A lot of times we have people saying this and saying that against a process when at one point there was no process at all. So give the process a chance. Give us a chance. And understand that you do have people from Poughkeepsie standing here. I can understand it if nobody else is standing here from Poughkeepsie. I'm from Poughkeepsie. I live here. I deal with the children here. I have programs here. I'm in the streets. I'm clean. Poughkeepsie's here, 100%. And I'm not a person just to agree with everything. If I feel like something's wrong, I'm going to say something. This is a group who's very constructive, and constructive criticism is welcomed in this group. So as far as the advisory board, this is all checks and balances. It's a process. Everybody has to work through what they're going to work through. So just to come up here and just say this, when at one point there was no process at all. And like I said again, not so-called. We are a community group, period.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't agree with the notion that there wasn't any public invite. I don't know if you remember. I actually believe you were there, Ms. Sandone, at the BHC when we put out a public all over the internet. We put out flyers and we asked people to come. That's when the city first talked about taking ownership of the YMCA back. And we invited a lot of people out, and we had a big turnout. And from that meeting is where all these people come from. You know, we had that meeting, and like they said, these people, they called. We said, how can we work together? We want to be a part of this project too. So, I mean, that's all I want to say.
I'm sorry, but I am very offended by that comment. Day One Early Learning Center is a nonprofit organization, and we are looking to meet a need that has not been met here in Poughkeepsie to provide high quality education for children ages 0 to 5. I'm not really sure if any of you guys work with our kids or deal with them face to face, but many of our students enter the school district below the learning level. I have 5th graders who cannot read, who write their numbers backwards. So I really am offended by that comment, because Day One is a nonprofit organization, and it's going to be a game changer here in the city of Poughkeepsie for our kids. And our kids are going to be much more productive, and they're going to go into school at the learning levels that they need to be at, or beyond that. And I look like the kids that I serve. There's a whole bunch of different individuals from different backgrounds standing up here, and I can tell you that I am Poughkeepsie. I look like the kids that I serve. The kids, their families feel comfortable with me, so I really, really feel offended by that comment.
So I have to echo the comments. I work for the YMCA, but I'm also a community activist. I'm on the State Board of Citizen Action, the co-founder of Kingston Tenants Union. So grassroots is what I do. I do outreach, and there isn't any program that I would recommend or participate in that we didn't get community feedback from. When the YMCA of Kingston and Ulster County, we went to a public meeting where there was an expression and an outpouring from the community. And from that meeting, I connected with Laquette, and we connected with other groups, and we all came together independently. And when I mentioned our bike clinics, that's an example of what the YMCA can do. We have multiple different programs that can come to Poughkeepsie, and everything that we do will be in accordance with the community, because that is part and a parcel to who we are. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ozzie Williams, and I actually had come up to thank Community Matters and Natasha for Friday Night Lights, and I had a conversation with her because I wanted to figure out what can we do, our organization, our sorority, and how we can participate. And to get to know, I can do a few games, so I'm willing to participate with Saturday night. What's your program?
Open gym and activities.
Open gym and activity, as well as Friday Night Lights. While Rashida was talking about the bike clinic, I text somebody and they gave me a person who teaches bike safety, and that might be able to come out if that's something that we wanted to have for Friday Night Lights. And also, there was a time, I got a song, when the police department used to help with bike safety, helmet fitting, and sometimes they would actually give away bicycles, and it would be in the parking lot behind the Chance. So Mayor, I don't know if your officers still participate and provide that type of service for children in the community, but I think that would be a good way for the officers in the city to engage with our children as well. And Doctor, I'm on your Poughkeepsie Wellness Committee. I said that to you before, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to do things that will improve the health of our children in the city of Poughkeepsie. So call me.
I just want to say we're getting close to 8 o'clock, but we have a few more people, and so certainly we'd like to do that, and then we'll wrap up, okay?
So I'm going to be super fast. My name's Evan Menace. I live in the 2nd Ward. I have professional relationships with several of you on stage, and I just want to say the proposal that you've put forward as it is, I'm fully in support of. I think it's an excellent concept. I'm excited to see how it evolves moving forward. Hearing what we've heard tonight with all of the programming that's already going on in the city and all the programs that I'm aware of and the conversations that I've had with the community, one of the major disconnects that we have is that even though there is so much programming that's available here in the city of Poughkeepsie, many of our residents, many of our community members are not aware of all the programming that is currently available. And I know each and every one of you does your own outreach efforts in order to make sure the community is aware of the programs that you offer. I would love to see, if possible, this group to start as a coalition, as 35 Montgomery Coalition, moving forward, figuring out a marketing outreach program that you could start right now without adding any other programming, just marketing the programs that you do through one cohesive branding marketing concept. I'd love to see you partner with the city and the county to make sure that that is as effective as possible, but it is the disconnect that I have observed throughout the community in my conversations, and I would just challenge you to start there, start now, and make sure people know what you're already doing. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm a mental health peer advocate and love everything about your proposal and get that everything's going to take time. So I was curious, since the county has offered, what was it, $3 million, which I know is a drop in the bucket as far as a project this size is concerned. If we're not looking at the design being completed till 2021, and there is so much outdoor space that is just not accessible because it's part of the larger property that's considered not usable, can some of that, can it be considered, I'm just going to read up my card because it's written there. Design completed by 2021, how much cleanup, rehab, or usable space can be created between then and now for things like recreation, temporary gardening, like it's cool that you're going to have gardening on the roof and in the courtyard. Was it 12 acres? Totally, and Poughkeepsie Farm Project is part of this, so using this, making the space around the building, as much of it as possible, usable now, so that there is recreational things that can happen and it becomes a community space. And I want to echo everything everyone has been saying and encourage that there is a mechanism for public input and transparency in and sharing in the decision making going forward, because I like that you're going to take your time. It's making sure that every aspect of the community has the opportunity to have their voices heard. And not everybody has a smartphone, not everybody has access to a computer, and community matters, guys. I love that you did the survey. It warms my data-loving heart, so thank you.
I think that that's exactly in line with the conversations that we're having, as far as we don't need to wait. And I'm excited that we're having this in a public forum. I'm excited that the mayor is here, that the city administrator is here, that they have the opportunity to hear this as well. I think an important note about the site is that there's the 35 Montgomery site, which is the former YMCA site, and then there's Eastman Park, which is an existing city park. So it's just an important differentiation to make that, and I think that's where we can invite the city into this process, not invite, but, collaborate with the city, as Parks and Recreation grows and the offerings grow. As Satara was mentioning, there's more and more possibilities around what we can do as a city and think about how we can work together to make that happen. So I think.
Hi, Eli Berkowitz with Community Voices Heard. I just want to say, as a representative of a member-led grassroots organization, it's really inspiring to see this proposal, and particularly the presence of the powerful grassroots organizations on the stage, and how clearly you've led this process and brought Poughkeepsie into it. I was interested and heartened to see some of the statistics included in sort of the framing of your vision, particularly around, the one that stuck out to me was, the number of working adults that are forced to work low-wage jobs and long hours, which brought to mind sort of the beautiful vision that you have for responding to some gaps and some needs in the community that are part of much longer processes of disinvestment and lack of economic opportunity, etc. So I'm realizing as I'm asking this, maybe more of a question for people from the city, but I'm going to pose it to you all on the stage. What are your plans and commitments to make sure that, say, the construction jobs are going to people from the city, that the youth are being hired to work in the center, and things like that, to make sure that the funding that you will rain down upon you, with God's blessing, it goes back into the city.
Thank you, Eli. And just understanding that this group is trying to present tonight a set of values and that are open-ended, I just want to go back to a previous comment, and thank you, Lori, for even questioning the process. This is one of our community venues of trying to talk about this. We saw an urgency to put this forward because we didn't know what was going to come up the river and what was going to be presented, and we tried to call each other and try to discuss ideas ahead of essentially a moment like this to bring more people to the table. And Eli, to your point, bringing other grassroots organizations, we welcome you to continue the conversation with us to help us understand the potentials and the opportunities to establish ways to decrease that gap. One thing that we would encourage the city to do in terms of the longer construction timelines that we have, and in terms of the processes also, is to source regionally, invest locally. And I think when I said before, this is our chance to do it right, that this is also a teaching time. This building, if it's large scale or it's small scale, includes a lot of trades and a lot of opportunity for people to showcase their talent and to showcase what it is to do something for the city. So the chance and opportunity to make this a showpiece, not as what the product is, but what the building could be as a process, in and of itself is an education for our children, and for our community and for inclusion. And that's what we would hope would be our motivation moving forward.
Hello, my name is Fred Bunnell, and I happen to live in the town of Poughkeepsie. And it's that fact that leads me to come here. Because I think one of the tragedies of our larger community is that the city is largely ignored by the surrounding towns. Therefore, I urge you to explore possible collaborations with the surrounding towns, and particularly the town of Poughkeepsie. And in addition, I also would advocate for advocacy. Pay attention, there's been allusion to it, public policy at all levels. We've got to change some of the structures. For example, the school districts, the financing of school districts. Those are coming up for discussion shortly in the New York State Senate. That's one example of where we need to be informed advocates and as well as collaborators with our neighbors. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ken Steer. I live close by, a few blocks away. I don't really have a question, but I just thought since we dragged all of you up there, put you in the spotlight, there are a few people that, well, maybe they're not in the spotlight, but since you've had to stand there, I just kind of wanted to invite you to say something, if any of you want to, particularly maybe the anchor institutions, Vassar, Dutchess Community College, how you fit into this. If we have time, very briefly, just want to hear. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. My name is Wes from Vassar College. We are supporters of the project. You might have seen in the presentation there wasn't a space designated for Vassar per se. That was intentional. I think our commitment to this project is we have many wonderful programs, many led by Lisa Call, who's sitting in the back, from our Office of Community Engaged Learning, where many of our students do work with city residents, city organizations, many of them up here on the stage, to collaborate on a number of different community projects. And so we could imagine many of those things happening in this center. So just being people who would invite our resources, our staff, our faculty, other kinds of people to engage with that space so that they just serve as resources in the center.
Hi, I'm Pamela Eddington, the president of Dutchess Community College. It's located in the town of Poughkeepsie, but Dutchess Community College is a county asset. And I have, from the beginning of my presidency, believed that the city of Poughkeepsie is absolutely critical to the mission of Dutchess Community College, and that's why we opened an English language school and our high school equivalency program in the Family Partnership Center. We needed to have a place in the city of Poughkeepsie. We are attracted to this coalition because we know how important it is to shore up the educational pipeline from birth to, lifelong learning through seniors. And we see tremendous opportunity for the college to offer services and educational programs in the new site. And to have it also be a very active place where our students can have applied learning experiences. So our exercise science students assisting in the health and fitness programs, our human services students and other students participating in the after-school programs as role models and mentors for the younger group. We believe that, it's only through coalitions, collaborations, and partnerships that we are going to be able to transform our societies. And so this, we needed to be part of this amazing group and are looking forward to seeing, what we can accomplish with this and bring the resources and assets that the community college has to the table. But thank you for asking.
I just want to, I'm here representing the library district, and we can see that building from our offices, and it's so sad to see. It's a dead, rotting building, and many of us remember how it used to be when it was a thriving center, so the library district is very motivated to bring it back to life. We're excited about the idea of a corridor linking the library to this new facility. And we're excited about the cross-fertilization that'll take place when you have all these different agencies and organizations cooperating together. The gentleman who mentioned that there are great things going on and people don't know about them, when they come to this campus, they may come there for one service, they'll see all the other facilities, all the other opportunities there, and so it'll benefit everyone. The Adrian's Library, many of you will know that there's a new section to it. This week we celebrated actually the 10th anniversary of that new section. It's a huge, thriving facility, so those of you who don't know much about what goes on there, I encourage you to check it out. The gentleman who asked about a stopgap measure, while we're waiting for the new facility, please take a look at the services we offer. We have a preschooler learning center, services for seniors, services for every age group. So we are very excited about the new opportunity that comes from this vision and this facility that's planned. Thanks.
Okay, with that, I'm going to end this portion of it. I just want Mayor Rolison to come up and make some closing remarks, but I appreciate you all coming up and handling all these questions and taking all these questions. I personally would say I think there's empirical evidence that this has been an open process. When we started the expressions of interest, asked for them, we had no idea what we were going to get, and we've been open every step. And on that note, I'll hand it off to the mayor.
So to echo what my friend Dr. Eddington said, I think you used the phrase amazing group. Well, you are an amazing group. I am glad that you were all here tonight to present the vision that you submitted through the RFEI process. And we look forward, not only just as a city, but the larger community, of continuing these discussions to see this keep moving in that forward momentum that has already started. And I want to thank the members of the Citizens Group and Councilperson Salem, who is here tonight from the 2nd Ward and is in your ward. And I appreciate your participation as well. And again, this is really just the start of this process. I think the great thing is that individuals have come together to try to create something which will be a centerpiece for the city of Poughkeepsie for years to come, And these organizations, and there are others that weren't here tonight, that are either part of the process or will become part of the process, are already doing things that are great right now. But having this opportunity to create that campus-like setting at such an historical spot in the city of Poughkeepsie with all of the community assets already there is really exciting for us. And again, I want to thank members of the public and especially Changepoint tonight for hosting us here. And we look forward to many further discussions and seeing this great project come to fruition. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.